doing a great job. I wonder, was he suffering from diarrhea? What ailment did he have? Because they have not explaining that. What we now know is actually he had gone through grave torture. Grave torture. And we see a little bit of what could have happened when we had these riots in town. That somebody gets a magala and starts defleshing people openly. Openly defleshing people.
What's deflation?
You get pliers and you pull up somebody's flesh, using a pliers on a pickup. We saw how they got this journalist Akena and started hitting him like because not even an animal, because not even an animal deserves.
Not even their cows.
It would deserve that. And actually, if you did that, you'd be in trouble with them. You beat somebody's animal like they were doing on the streets. So if they can do that on the street, just imagine what they would do behind closed doors. So this thing we used to read about, what used to happen in Nakasero, this dungeon, which in Nakasero State Search Bureau, and in books like The State of Blood by Henry Chamber, we are seeing them now. So it takes a very courageous person, extremely courageous, to say, but what is the cause of this? This is to justify it. So, okay, it happened, but there was a reason why it happened. Really, you need to have a lot of courage. As a country, we shouldn't be moving that direction. And that's why the Law Society should get so much interested. That's why, I think a few years back when the Honorable Nyombi, Peter Nyombi, was Attorney General, and a few other officers of the Law Society whom I wouldn't want to mention, members rather of the Law Society I don't want to mention, we had problems with them and we indicted them, giving what ordinarily nobody has ever heard of, certificates of incompetence and so on. Really, we wanted to create that stigma around them, and profession, I'm telling you, they will go with it to their graves. And that's what we need to do. For example, the courts of law should never be used to play games, political games. Courts of law should never be used to sanitize processes. That you go and torture people.
That's what Lydia is saying. This is a political thing.
No. Let me tell you.
In that case, then the proper thing to do is get it out of the courts.
Yes.
Set these people free.
Free, and then we do the thing. But for you to say now, judges are going to... this country has got a big... All the courts, we have backlogs. Criminality is taking place. There are criminals out there who should be tried. There are congestions in prisons.
Okay.
Instead of handling what we should be handling as a country, we now get innocent people because they have beaten you at elections. And let me tell you, I've read the missives of His Excellency the President. He complains about Rukugi. Why? He lost. He complains about Bujiri. Why? He lost. He complains about Arua. Why? He lost. So it's where they are losing that the opposition raped women. We now have that actually, this thing about raping and so on, from each and every police stations where this election took place. And we have now the data, the official data of the police.
And the opposition raped women who are NRM or what?
Let me tell you, we now have data. And let me tell you, at the appropriate time.
Let's stick with this subject.
Yes, at the appropriate time, we will get the what? We will get this data out to show that actually it never happened. And a few skirmishes during elections are always there. They happen in Bugweri, they happen in Remuyaga, they happen in Busiro, they happen literally everywhere. But you cannot, that cannot be a reason for the state to come and kill. Take for example, as I end, you remember very well in the last presidential elections, the Right Honorable Mama Mbabazi was having a rally in Ntungam. And there was a procession of His Excellency the President, his supporters. Remember when they went there and they attacked, and this issue about the leopard something arose from that incident. Was that opposition? The leopard something. It arose from a procession of His Excellency the President, his supporters, literally attacking the rally
Another candidate.
of Honorable Amama Mbabazi. And the president was so furious, and he said they will see, and indeed they eventually saw. Why? So it has nothing to do with the opposition. It has everything to do with the party this gentleman sitting across from me represents and speaks for.
Abdul.
Well,
When the DPP says that torture is unacceptable, and if anything, statements taken from tortured people are unacceptable, will we have a chance to look at who has been torturing?
well, about Abudo having data, there used to be a gentleman in this town who had a black book, who have waited for that black book for the last
I can give you the figures
for
now.
the last 40 years. I would want Honorable Abudu Katuntu to table his data in Parliament, where he's a member, an honorable
We are
member.
going to do that.
That's
well,
not topic for discussion today.
No, but you allowed him to raise it, and I'm responding to him that we are
I
we
told
wait
him
your
that has
data.
to be discussion another day.
But let me
Who started it should
let
bring
me
his
let me
data.
just respond to your question and others.
Yeah.
Is UPDF accountable? Is the Uganda Police Force accountable? Is the Uganda state accountable? Yes, it is accountable. Perhaps we are not holding it accountable effectively. We should improve the mechanisms for holding the Uganda state accountable.
Who beat Zaake?
Yes, I'm saying that's why I'm coming from. That matter is under investigation. First of all, if he was beaten, by whom, to what extent? That matter is under investigation. And my wish,
I
like
may have your
yours,
microphone on.
my wish, like yours, is that this should be thoroughly investigated. None of us in government, none of us in
You
government.
have doubt that you.
I only have your
that matter
microphone.
is
Don't
under
worry about
investigation.
that. Continue.
If you have evidence, please provide that evidence before courts of law or to the police. None of us in government is saying torture is acceptable. The president has written 3 times in the last 10 days and has condemned torture. We all condemn torture. Nobody should be tortured. Either a member of parliament or other citizens of Uganda, or even people who are non-citizens who are resident here. Now, nobody should be tortured. And therefore, all these things that have come to light will be investigated. And our hope is that the investigation will be thorough, will be transparent, and those found culpable
Transparent investigation.
will be punished according to the law. The UPDF in particular has come out to say they are conducting investigation. First of all, those soldiers who beat up people, or the journalists here in particular, their units are known. The deployment is done according to units. So the UPDF does not even need a lot of investigation to know which soldiers were where. I do believe that the UPDF has already apprehended these soldiers and the command.
And the
And-
SFC in Arua is
and-
doing
and-
their
I
and-
only have your microphone.
Even SFC is
I
part of
don't have
UPDF.
Any other microphone on? Continue.
Even SFC is part of UPDF, and if mistakes are found, the command and the soldiers will be punished accordingly. Now, framing, nobody should be framed. And if somebody is framed and taken to court, like the case being made that Chagulanyi and others are being framed, that's why courts are there. I don't expect a defense lawyer, a defense counsel, to say otherwise. It is the job of the defense counsel to try as much as possible to absolve their clients. And so I don't expect anything less from Honorable Segona to try to absolve his client.
And the job of the government spokesperson?
The job of the government spokesperson is to admit mistakes of government and promise that the government will do its best to rectify. That's the job of the government spokesperson. Now,
And the job of the stone throwers.
now the pliers falls under the pair of pliers falls under torture and mistreatment of people under your custody and so on. Surely this should never have happened, and they will be investigated. Honorable Segona asks about guns, or I think it was Honorable Sechikubo. The guns don't have to come from government stores. You can obtain your guns from elsewhere. You can get them from Congo. The ones that Jamil Mukulu is alleged to have used, the one that Kony used, You didn't get them from the government stores. So you can get guns and weapons from other places. But it is the duty of government that if you are suspected to have used those guns or intended to use it, you intend to use those guns, you should be. Now, the matter before court, including the alleged torture of members of parliament and the suspects, will be produced in court. The good thing is that all of them are now before a public court, which Honorable Segona and Abudu believe in, the civilian courts. They will have opportunity to raise all the issues, including alleged mistreatment, torture, framing, frivolous cases. I do have confidence in our courts and our court system that when the defense counsel, when the defense raises critical and evidential material in court, the court will agree with them and will find the state at fault and will make the necessary orders. Whether or not Honorable Segona says by luck to have access to Gulu court. Gulu court martial is not, you don't access it by luck. Even the military barracks, you don't access it by luck. You access it by procedure. If you follow the right procedure, you access. And therefore, we don't expect anybody to say, I will wake up and just walk into court or walk into the barracks. About the record, whether or not police was looking for Honorable or had any case against Honorable Chagulanyi, yes, there could have been procedural mistakes, but the fact that the defense counsel was not aware that police is looking for his client doesn't mean that indeed police was not looking for your client. Maybe you should say that police did not inform you in adequate time that they were looking for your client. So really, to wind up this matter, I want to say, whatever the case is, government will investigate all allegations, and it is our expectation that being a responsive government, we shall respond appropriately and to the satisfaction, not just the complainants, but to the general public of Uganda, that where mistakes were made, they were not intentional. And where they were intentional,
Yes.
The perpetrators of those mistakes will be punished in according to, one, the services of their agencies. If they were police officers, if they were armed people, they will be punished according to the code of conduct of their services and other laws of Uganda. It is on record that this government does not tolerate impunity of its officers, but also we implore Ugandans, particularly elected leaders, that they should never expect that simply because the elected leaders, the elected members of parliament, they will behave with impunity and get away with it. Okay. They can only demand that they should be treated fairly.
But we are still on microphone.
Yes.
If you notice how everyone is keeping quiet and listening to you because
You
there's a
stop
feeling
chat.
that you are outgunned. So I need to give you even a bit of time.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, so you see the problem with what you've said, and you know, if you look at what's happened recently and why people will not believe what you're saying, is that you have taken, or the government or state officers have applied brutality to members of parliament. Then state officers have brought trumped up charges against one member of parliament who is seen as a big threat now in the circles of the country or maybe NRM. So if you have that kind of fabrication, then how do you then go ahead and say that trust us, the government is out there for you, and so on and so forth?
Well, we doubting Thomases, you can't just wish them away. They will always exist. There was a time when the doubting Thomases said, we shall never end the war in Teso, in northern Uganda.
This particular example that you've given.
They said we shall
Instead
never
of moving
we
away
shall
from
never disarm the Karamajong, and so on. You remember in 2011 when a kilogram of sugar was costing 13,000, they said the economy had totally collapsed. Those doubting Thomases, it is our job as a government to continue giving them reassurance that this impunity, or perceived impunity, or actual impunity, will be thoroughly investigated, and give us today, give us tomorrow, give us a month, I can assure you we shall come back with what we have done.
So
by the way,
in the near future,
at
the near future,
after
do you
this show,
think-
by the way,
do you think in the near
after
future,
this show, by the way,
do you think in the near future we will have someone parade and say, "This is the guy that had pliers"? Do you think in the near future we'll have, "This is the guy that brought the guns case to court martial"? Do you think in the near future we'll have, "This is the guy that beat up Zaake"?
we shall, because our record really speaks for itself. If you want to dispute the credibility of our record, that's entirely upon you. But it is our job to remove those doubts each time you shed the doubt. It is our job as a government to remove that doubt.
So
and I can assure
or you're saying if that perpetrator is out there, they've listened to you, they should be scared now.
they shouldn't be scared. First of all, if they are service members, they know what the procedure, what the end result is going to be. For example, in the case of the ones who shot football fans in Mitiana, those 2 policemen have already been apprehended. I can tell you the one of UPDF, these ones of particularly of the journalists have been apprehended. And I was telling you that at the end of this show, by the way, we are going to have a meeting with all service chiefs, the CDF, the IGP, the Inspector General, the Director General of ISO, so that we deal with this matter from the public relations point of view, that this is not what NRM stands for. Mistakes have been made. Yes, we do concede that those mistakes were made. It is our job to reassure the public that not all is lost.
That's a good statement. Robert,
From a
Kironde,
PR perspective.
are you reassured by Ofonofondo's submission? That
And by the way, first of all, it is the NRM that raised the bar that we should, we should be judged highly, and therefore I want to tell Ugandans that these strong criticisms, we welcome them. We want them to hold us to the highest burden.
Now let us
to
have
the highest
people to
standard.
respond. Robert Kironde, are you reassured by Oho's promises that these people that tortured, we shall find out. The ones that we saw beating up a journalist, we shall see them. The ones that beat up members of parliament. and
Even in Canon in Gomba, where Bobi Wine is born, they killed another young man.
Can I respond this way, Oscar? I am not reassured. Because every time I have received assurances in this studio, I have not got the answers. I'll give you, no.
I only have the microphone.
For me, I respond to what I am asked. If I come to this studio and assurances are made, and I am asked if I'm reassured, you can't say I'm in the wrong venue, Lydia.
Go on. No one heard what you said.
I'm not talking to you. I'm
Yes.
doing my own things.
Robert?
You understand talking.
It is not enough for my brother Oo to simply say rest assured,
I didn't say rest assured.
or to say I want to reassure
They made
Ugandans.
struggle for assurance.
And I'll tell you why. I noticed with curiosity that of all the infractions he mentioned, he carefully skipped any comment about afflictions on MPs. The Honorable Bobi Wine, the Honorable Zaake. And maybe they have a better explanation. But the explanation, in my mind, is that these people suffered whatever vagaries they suffered at the hands of agencies. I disagree, and this is why. The bar that we should be debating here is the bar set by a constitution debated by the people of Uganda. Never mind how bastardized it has become.
By the NRM, that constitution.
No.
But only have
For as long as there was, to the best of my knowledge, there was a constituent assembly that consisted of the people of Uganda. The constitution doesn't read "we the people of the NRM." It says "we the people of Uganda" to the popular artist. Me, I'm a simple fellow who just goes about my business. As I like to describe myself, omuntu wa wansi, from Namtumba, beyond Iganga, by the way. It is very far. You need 3 hours to get there.
Almost Ita Kaiba.
For you, if you die, no one will know.
Honorable Sagona said, if I die like certain people, no one will know.
Oh, surely your family will know who is the one.
Now,
Your family will know that
you have to think about you have to think about the metaphors.
But does it make
You have to
sense?
think about the metaphors that we are talking about here. The point is that we must care about that one Yasin who dies and everyone moves on. That one life that dies, and Abiriga died and many were arrested.
Was assassinated.
Abiriga died and we saw the fury of the state. But when the ordinary Ugandan dies, what happens? When people are beaten on the streets, imagine what would have happened. I asked this question on social media, and let me ask it here. Would we have known the extent to which the forces can go if we hadn't had someone capture the UPDF beating up a famous journalist on camera?
Or arresting a singer.
Or arresting a singer? Would we have known the excesses that are going on? So we have to ask, what was on the footage of the cameras that were taken from journalists in Arua? Why aren't we talking about the agencies that took these journalists, forced them to destroy footage, and then released them? What are they so scared of the public seeing that they must destroy footage? These are the questions that we must drill deeper on. And for me, until I see these credible answers coming out to be explained to the ordinary Ugandan, the voter who puts the NRM in power, allegedly.
So,
I have right to qualify my statements. The voter who puts the NRM in power, and I repeat, allegedly, and I will not feel secure, because that's the same story we had about the Entebbe murders. To this day, I don't have answers. We had this about the Nakulabye murders. To this day, I don't have answers. We keep getting these reassurances, and then when we move to the next headline, these things just phase out. But you see now what we have is that finally we have seen an army turn on civilians, and at that point, you can't tell me to just rest assured. It will be addressed from a PR perspective.
Lydia, I have messages here from several people.
They need
and
the
I'm
PR
not going to,
badly.
not yet, because I have no studio. But it is the president of Uganda that is using social media, and he has already penned 4 or 5 letters, missives, to the Ugandans and his bazukuru on torturing journalists and so on and so forth. So he is the one who's concerned more than the entire government infrastructure, until maybe the other night when Honorable Tumwebaze also weighed in his video that perhaps isn't very accurate. So is this a motion here that even people in power are afraid to tackle? They're not as brave as OO and you.
No, let me just say this. Sometimes people want to choose what they want to hear, but also they want to frustrate, or they want to hear what other people hear. Parliament has been very open on this matter, so you cannot say that's only the president. Let's appreciate the different governments. Parliament has been very firm. The debate is alive in Parliament, and for me, I'm happy about that. OO is the spokesperson of the government. He has been doing his part, not as an individual, but also as an institution. The president is part of the convention. He's the final, the back ends with him. He's the head of state. Let him have his Bazukuru Kabozi conversion. He's the head of state. We have, the army has come out because they are stakeholders. I have seen numerous, not 1 or 2, statements from the police, at least for Kaima, who is the spokesperson, both on radio talk shows, but also official documents explaining their bit. So for me, I don't want to be part of the talk that's only the president. At least I'm a part of the community in Uganda. I want to see, maybe not, because I also have built my personal private profile, but I think I'm able to talk something. But let's appreciate the different lenses to this debate. People have come out, have talked, either as heads of institutions, but also institutions have talked and have been able to. So I wanted to respond to that. Secondly, the issue of, I heard you talking about the debate of somebody being a threat. I think we have to define the difference between threat and also being disruptive. You can be a threat, a political force, but without being disruptive. Part of this problem is what I'm saying, how did we end up here? Because if you are going to be disruptive, either collectively or individually, people become uncomfortable. I wish you could call that different. We have our courts. The courts of law in Uganda are alive. Well, if you ask me about the procedures and what's going on in court, personally, I am happy. Because if the charges are defective, they've been dropped. We are making progress. So even courts of law are doing their work. So I think that we should not be skewed in terms of appreciating, but also in terms of understanding. Because we have a problem with us, let's deal with it, let's correct it. And for me, if the charges are defective, they should be dropped. Nobody should be tortured. But how did we get up with torture? How do we prevent future tortures? This conversation where Isanda's Lydia Wanyoto Mutained cannot be answered in only courts of law, but they have a role. Let's get back. Let's not us as politicians disrupt society because you must have it. You must have this. This oxygen in Uganda is for all Ugandans. And Oscar, because I was in Arua and Ibujiri, I wish the data of Honorable Katuntu captures the people that were beaten, that were you are the one who has it, wherever it's coming from. You have talked about. I want to say what it should capture. I witnessed women being beaten
by opposition.
It's not about opposition, by our political. You know, they become the victims of our fights. And the moment you zero down this conversation about between NRM, yellow, and I don't know the party of red, there's a red thing, there's also blue and whatever, or green, we lose it. This is about Uganda. Because very few of us are in political forum or political campaign. Somebody looks up to today with the capital of 100,000 with her tomatoes on the stall. Yellow and red fight, and these tomatoes she's no more. She's beaten, she's kicked. I found women crying because their children have not been home for a whole week because of our elections. The young people have disappeared. They have not come home. They have been beaten up. They have been mobilized to go and become violent on the streets, and nobody is talking about. This Uganda is for all of us. The political activists in Uganda, if you hold the party card, if you're a member of parliament, we are very few. We are the minority. We should not disrupt the normal business of our country. And when we talk about someone who was beaten or there's a gunshot, we've lost an officer of police by just a stone hitting him on the scalp. Not in Arua, not in Busembatia, on Kampala Street here. So this problem is bigger and it's run by a few people. If we do not get this conversation straight outside courts of law and parliament, we'll get it wrong. And that's why I said in the beginning, where did we start? Where did they start beating us?
We stop for a break.